and also to instill in them an understanding of the environment and some of those more traditional sort of roles that perhaps are becoming more obsolete nowadays.
There's an element of tradition to why people farm these places. It's what the pioneers in New Zealand did. There's no doubt that merino farming in the high country has remained pretty constant for 150 years. And I think the biggest dictator of that is the land.
In the early 30s, Lochaber was split off a much larger station called Mount Peel Station. This land was deemed too hard to farm.
It's cold, it's wet, and nothing grows basically. So Lochaber is a high country station in New Zealand. They're called high country for a reason. It's very, very steep country. We have a very limited amount of flat land. The highest track on the farm would go up to 1,600 metres, and that elevation does generally go directly straight up. There's no doubt the consequences up on those tracks are much higher, but don't do anything silly and you'll get up there and you'll get down there. Land doesn't change, and therefore the system that works has remained the same for over a century.
Merino farming is an incredibly low-intensity type of farming. We have 10,500 hectares here, which is 25,000 acres. We run about 7,000 head of merinos. We run less than one animal to the hectare. So from our perspective, we're about as sustainable and natural as you could be.
We run merino because it is hard country, and merinos are a hardy animal. They do very well on the hill. They are more of a goat than they are a sheep. They generally can convert the energy that they absorb from the land more efficiently than, say, a bigger animal. Scope is their best friend. They want to move far, and on a place like this, scope is what we have. We have space, so they're the best animal for this kind of land. They can deal with the cold fantastically. Like, they'll deal with -10 for a good week pretty well. But yeah, if the snow doesn't move, then that's when you have to go and get them. And that's what we call snow raking, where you literally cut a track through the snow up to them and then take them down that track.
The tradition of bringing the sheep in off the hills in the spring and then in the late autumn before winter has been carried out on this country since the 1850s.
It's October, so we're in the middle of spring. The sheep are all out in our back blocks, our high country. To get them, we have to bring a team together of 5 musterers to cover the country. We do a lot of our work sidling across faces, so not necessarily up and down, but across hills. You need a hill stick on the hill. You put it into the side of the hill and you brace yourself on it. And your hill stick acts like a third leg, really. And you feel pretty naked when you either break a hill stick or lose a hill stick.
It is a challenging environment out on the hill. There's numerous occasions where we have been caught when the fog comes in and you're out on the tops and you spread out mustering. You know, you've got to be pretty on your toes and sit tight if the fog does roll in, if you're not sure where you are.
If there's nothing up high, then we can just get round through Coal Hill and drop down. Just follow the spine of the ridge down.
Yeah, so all the sheep that we get from here will get pushed onto the front of Mount Peel, and then, but there's already another 1,200 sheep there. So we'll pick all them up as well and bring them down into the farm. Merino sheep are characters, I suppose you'd probably call them. They are a challenge, as any sheep is, but a merino is a complete different kettle of fish. When you think they're going to be smart, they're dumb. And when you think they're going to be dumb, they're smart. And they can be very cunning. You just have to chuckle, I think, with merinos sometimes. Yeah, the last time I mustered this, I had them up in the exact same place and they just wouldn't move. They don't really know where to go there because we're barking at them from up high. They're a very challenging sheep. They're very much a mob mentality sheep. So if one goes, they all go. If one doesn't go, none of them go.
The sheep on Loch Arbour are generally pretty wild. They are domesticated sheep, obviously, but some of the sheep we'll only see 2 or 3 times a year. So they're as close to sort of wild farmed animals as you can get, I suppose.
They are going to be hard work because, well, they're just going to sit there basically until we get closer to them. You've got to get up the hill, you've got to get behind them, and you've got to bring them down the hill. And the best way to do that is dogs. Working with the dogs is absolutely the greatest pleasure of this job. They've all got their own personalities, they've all got their different ways of working, they've all got their different ways of enjoying work and hating work. And that is all largely dependent on how you work with them. So the spring muster is basically getting the sheep in for our main shear. We bring them in, we go through them, we get them in the shed to shear, and then we kick them out again to their next big block, and we don't see them again for another 2 months. We're the initial part of the journey, and with wool, it's a massive journey.
There's not many other jobs in the world where you're actually earning a living from roaming around the hills, tending animals. It's a pretty cool way of living, really. You stay fit and healthy, you're at one with the environment.
Those big hills, those steep faces, the snow-capped mountains, the colours, the braided rivers. They're just awe-inspiring, really, and they suck you in. And it's hard to let go of them.